Grandpa, who is that woman that is always sitting alone by the river, staring at her reflection? Dudu asked. Dudu is 14 years old and my first grandchild. He has always been inquisitive by nature. He likes spending every part of his holiday with us, his grandparents. I love all my grandchildren, but I share a unique bond with Dudu. Whenever he is around, we go everywhere together. We had just finished dinner and were sitting outside taking in the cool evening air. Grandpa, who is that woman? Dudu asked again, this time touching my arm to gain my attention. Her name is Kuka, I answered. Why is she always sitting by the river staring at it? Is she a mermaid? Dudu asked. No, she is not a mermaid, I answered, smiling at him. She is waiting for her love. Her love? So she is married, Dudu said. No, she is not married and will not marry because she is under a love spell that is not yet broken. A love spell? Questioned Dudu, eyes wide. Grandpa, please tell me what happened to her, Dudu pleaded. It's always like this. With Dudu, it's one question after another, until his curiosity is satisfied or we end up telling him a story. Today, it's going to be a story. Well, it happened years ago when she fell in love with a young man named Kweku. Kuka and Kweku's story started like the tales our elders tell by the fireside. Kweku was new to our village, having moved to John Bali from the flatlands after a fire destroyed his family's home. He arrived with little more than his tools and a determination to rebuild his life. Kuka was the first to notice him well, the first to admit it. Everyone noticed him, really. His broad shoulders, the way he swung his hammer, the easy laugh that made people feel like they'd known him forever. For Kuka, it wasn't just his looks, it was the way he listened. He'd sit by the marketplace and listen to the old men talk about the history of the mountains, nodding as if he'd lived it himself. Kuka, with her soft-spoken ways and knack for storytelling, often joined in. Soon, they were inseparable. Their love seemed effortless at first. Kweku would leave tiny carvings like birds, stars, and flowers on Kuka's doorstep. Kuka, in turn, brought him lunch at the forge, where he worked tirelessly shaping iron and repairing tools. The entire village adored them together. People even joked that they'd name their first child after the mountains, as if their union was blessed by the land itself. But every story has its shadows. The first sign of trouble came when Kweku received an offer from a merchant in the flatlands. It wasn't just any offer. It was a chance to train under one of the best blacksmiths in the region, something that could change his life forever. But it meant leaving Janbali for at least 2 years. Kuka was devastated. Why can't you stay and build something here? We're happy, aren't we? She asked one night under the baobab tree. I am happy, Kweku said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. But this isn't just about us. It's about what I can become, what I can offer you, offer us. Kuka nodded, but her heart clenched. Questions raced through her mind. What if he left and found someone else? Someone stronger, smarter, or more ambitious? She couldn't shake the fear and the doubt. That's when she made the decision to visit her aunt. Kuka's aunt, Moana, was a healer with a reputation that teetered between respect and suspicion. People came to her for remedies, but they also whispered about the charms she made, the ones that could bring rain or silence an enemy. When Kuka showed up, Moana didn't seem surprised. You're here about the boy, Moana said, her eyes scanning Kuka's worried face. Kuka hesitated before answering, I don't want to lose him. Moana handed her a small leather pouch. Place this under his bed. It won't force him to stay, but it will make him feel like he can't live without you. Then she asked, Are you sure this is what you want? Kuka nodded, though something in her gut felt wrong. The charm worked. Kweku chose to stay. When the merchant returned, Kweku told him, I cannot go with you. I belong here. Kuka's heart soared. The next few months were blissful. Kweku expanded his forge, taking on more apprentices. He and Kuka began planning their future, talking about building a home, starting a family. It was as if the mountains themselves smiled on them. But sometimes, Kweku would stare into the fire late at night, his face clouded. When Kuka asked what was wrong, he'd shrug it off and say, "I am just tired." Still, their laughter filled the village. They danced at festivals, took walks together, and dreamed of a life together. But the charm's effects weren't as simple as Kuka had hoped. After some time, Kweku began to change. He grew restless, getting angry without reason, snapping at his apprentices over minor mistakes. He lost his laughter and started avoiding the marketplace, where he and Kuka used to spend hours. One evening, he lashed out at Kuka over nothing. "I don't know what's wrong with me," he confessed later, holding his head in his hands. "Sometimes I feel trapped, like I'm not myself." Kuka tried to comfort him, but guilt gnawed at her. She kept asking herself if it was the charm that is making him feel this way. It couldn't be, she tried to convince herself. Or could it? It all unraveled during the Festival of the Moon. The entire village gathered to celebrate the festival, with fires lighting the stone paths and drums echoing through the mountains. Kuka and Kweku were there, though they stood apart more than usual. Halfway through the night, Kweku went back home. He had forgotten something. When he returned, he was holding something, a small leather pouch tied with red string. He stood in the center of the square, his face pale, his voice loud enough to silence the drums. "Kuka," he called. "What is this?" he asked, lifting up the leather pouch. Kuka froze. She recognized the pouch immediately. "This was under our bed," Kweku said, his voice shaking. "What have you done, Kuka?" The crowd turned to Kuka, their murmurs growing louder. Kuka's knees felt weak, but she stepped forward. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Didn't mean for what?" Kweku demanded. "To take away my choice? To make me stay when I wasn't ready? To trust my love for you enough to make me come back for you?" Kuka tried to explain, but the words wouldn't come. All she could do was cry as Kweku threw the pouch to the ground and walked away. The next day, Kweku packed his things and left Janbali. He didn't say goodbye to anyone, not even Kuka. The village buzzed with gossip, some blaming Kuka, others saying Kweku overreacted. Kuka retreated to the river, where she spent hours staring at her reflection. Some said she is communing with the river goddess, begging her to help bring back her love. She stopped coming to the market, stopped telling stories. The once vibrant girl became a shadow of herself. As for Kweku, no one knows where he went. Some say he returned to the flatlands, while others believe he wandered into the mountains, never to be seen again. "Oh, Grandpa, it is such a sad story," said Dudu as he yawned. "If only Kuka had trusted Kweku." "Yes, Dudu, it is a sad story indeed. To build a relationship, you must trust the other person, and every action has a prize attached to it. The price Kuka has paid is heavy and double. She lost her love, and she couldn't marry another because the love spell has not been broken. It can only be broken with two of them present. People in Janbali still talk about it. Some say Kuka cursed herself when she tried to meddle with love. Others say Kweku will return one day, ready to forgive. But the truth? The truth is that love, once tainted, is hard to restore. It's been years now, and Kuka still spends hours sitting and staring at the river. Maybe she's searching for answers, or maybe she's just waiting. For him, for redemption, for a second chance. But in Janbali, love and forgiveness are as unpredictable as the mountains themselves. "Thank you, Grandpa," Dudu said. "I enjoyed the story and I learned some lessons." "Thank you, my dear," I replied. "Good night." "Good night, Grandpa."
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to our channel at Folklores and Dreamscapes to enable us bring more stories your way.